We was Vikings. Because the Netflix meme is not a meme, it is simple observable reality. God. Netflix proves yet again that they will gender and race swap literally anyone as they create a black Viking queen in their new series, or new quote unquote, Vikings Valhalla. Just, Jesus. You know what? So this is Jarl Håkon's son. And you know what? For once, I don't even want to show this character to the actual historical person. I want to show this character to his dad. Hey, Sigurd, come over here. Have a look at your son in the future. Norway's first transvestite, and a big fan of Justin Trudeau, as it turns out. Jesus Christ. A frequent applier of both makeup, dresses, and blackface. To be fair, you know what? That would make for a better story than what Netflix cooked up here, because at least that would be a pretty cool comedy, if nothing else. But of course, the worst part is that they're trying to sell this as actual, genuine history, because the entire point here is to destroy something, is to take Viking history and culture, bend it, break it, disintegrate it, until there is nothing left but the shattered pieces that Netflix can pick up and go, huh, mine now, I own this, you see. Because, of course, you see, she is loosely based on historical records, you must understand. She's not an entirely fictional character, no. Loosely based on historical records. Ah, yes, much in the same way that, Warlord of Mars is loosely based on NASA's observations of the Red Planet. Oh god, it's so very, very dumb. And it gets worse, of course. The producer, you see, did a lot of research on the Vikings. Oh, I'm sure you did. Wikipedia must have been so informative. Oh, Christ, what am I saying? This isn't even Wikipedia. This is Gender Studies, the Viking course. And I certainly wasn't about to put a person of color into a role that the actor would spend all the time saying, I don't know why I'm here. And so, of course, to get around this logical inconsistency, he cast a Swedish person. Because as we all know, they never know why they're anywhere at all. Goddamn Sweden. We should have solved the Swedish problem when we had the problem. Euthanasia is now the only option we have left. Although, well, I suppose we could consider abject subjugation without voting rights as well, but I don't know. I feel like the previous option might be the more humane one. For the Swedes, of course. And whilst we're on the topic as well, I don't know what's the biggest insult here, making a black Viking queen in Norway, or casting a Swede as a Norwegian king. Oh, to be fair, Danish, Swedish, so she's half human, if nothing else. Denmark gets a pass because, it's basically our vacation colony, but oh well, details. And the best part, it goes on, because again, this is an attack on Viking culture. It's not a mistake, it's not a whoopsie, it's not for diversity, inclusion, representation, any of this bullshit. This is a common tactic now in Western entertainment as far as it has fallen. Because it's not just putting a black woman in the role. No, you see, the Vikings, they didn't dominate, they didn't conquer, what they did was assimilate, you see. Ah yes, all of those raids on England and France and the Mediterranean, they were assimilation attempts. Come over here, Saxon, give me your woman. Why? I'm gonna assimilate her real goddamn good. Oh, assimilation via the sword and the penis. Well, I suppose that's one way of doing it, and hey, there's certain indications that we're trying to do that today as well, but again, details. Here's the thing. Now, there's a part of a point here, because back in the day, of course, when we were traveling with longboats, distances were considerably larger than today. You couldn't just jump on an aircraft and be in France. And so when Vikings were offered to settle in France by the French king to create basically a shield against further Viking invasions, they slowly began developing their own culture in Normandy. The Normans became a different entity from the Scandinavians who had originally come to settle there. Then they in turn invaded England and assimilated the English, and became modern-day English people rather than the once Anglo-Saxons that were assimilated away via the application of penises and broadswords. Now, the Danes tried this as well, but failed obviously because Danes. What can you goddamn expect? It requires a Norman to get this right. But nevertheless, you wouldn't look at England today and go, ah, little Norway. Though you should, frankly. And frankly, when we're talking about the assimilation of other countries that really owe their success to Norway, we really shouldn't be stopping at Sweden now, should we? Just a thought. And this is because of the distances involved. It is not assimilation as we talk about it today, it is the evolution of culture based upon the, meetings of different tribes, different groups of people, different cultures, different settlements, hell, even to a much smaller extent, different races, like we saw in Spain, for example. But to then say that, oh, well, it's totally reasonable that you'd have, what was it? Ah, yes, Sub-Saharan Vikings. We're getting into the Dahomey question once again. Well, to be fair, they did also raid and enslave a lot of people. It was the Norwegians that caused the Dahomeys to be so savage. Hold on there. I don't want that one on my conscience, to be entirely frank with you. We had some standards, if not a whole lot, and the entire point, it is destruction. As I mentioned previously, this is to destroy culture. It is merely a different approach to the one we're already seeing in, science fiction and fantasy with Star Wars and The Lord of the Rings. Disney has already succeeded in their attempts to claim Star Wars. Star Wars is theirs now. They have uncanoned the old Star Wars. They've broken it, they've bent it, they removed it, to the point that now you cannot talk about Star Wars without mentioning Disney, because they've gotten their claws into everything, every part of it, and they're of course working on claiming everything else. The same thing is what they're doing with The Lord of the Rings. They are making an intentionally subpar product to force you to think about it. Because if it's good, you could potentially just take that and go like, okay, well, we're just going to accept this into The Lord of the Rings, like what happened with the Peter Jackson films. It has been accepted as not a perfect adaptation, but about as good an adaptation as anyone could ever expect, really, of a series of books. And so now that is just more Lord of the Rings. That's not the point that Amazon wants. They want Lord of the Rings to be theirs. They don't want to own Lord of the Rings as a separate entity. They want Amazon's Lord of the Rings. Like Disney once claimed fairy tales like Snow White, for example, where they took the original fairy tale and they took it, they trademarked it, and now it's their property. They own it. Now, it's harder to do today due to the size of the fandoms, which is why they need to bend and break them first and introduce the anti-fans. The people who will pick up roles like this, the people who will flock to them because they're simply just anti-fan fiction. What was it here? Yes. Jarl Håkon we meet is a woman of color, but one universally accepted as a Viking. This is the same thing they did with Rey in the Star Wars trilogy, where Rey is an anti-fan self-insert. She is the perfect character. She can use every piece of the culture of the setting. She's a flawless Jedi. She can fight with a lightsaber. She can use Jedi mind tricks, and everyone immediately accepts her. She meets Han Solo, and within minutes he's like, "You've got guts, kids." She can talk to Chewbacca. She can fly the Millennium Falcon. Everyone recognizes her as a perfect piece of their world. While she, of course, is the wisecracking anti-fan, going, "Well, that's silly. Why'd you need the Jedi Scrolls? Can't you just submit to the dark side? It'd be much quicker. Why do I need decades of training? Silly Willy. Look, Yoda pops out from heaven and goes, yes, she is the chosen one. It's stupid, and that's the point. Because it's not intended to be your Star Wars, your Lord of the Rings, hell, in this case, your fucking culture. It is intended to be a Netflix property. It is intended to be an Amazon property. It is intended to be a Disney property. It's theirs now. And there is frightening little we can really do about it. Now, Vikings Valhalla has already been way less popular than the original show, which took a liberal approach to history, but at least they had very loose basings on it, and they presented it more as a fantasy tale almost, with Ragnar Lothbrok, and mythicizing his character, introducing shield maidens and stuff. They were kind of blurring the edges a little bit between fantasy and history, introducing blind seers and that kind of stuff. And of course, that's the often used lefty excuse as well. Oh, you're okay with dragons, but not black people? Ah, ha, ha, bigot. These people do deserve to be strangled, one way or another. Because, as I made the point previously, in so many goddamn occasions, if you have a setting, and then you do decide, well, let's just change everything about it, you don't have that anymore now, do you? You've got modern day propaganda, just like you've got this. And this time, they're trying to pretend that they're making more historical stuff. They're bringing it into the 11th century Viking culture, you see. It's no more a tale of a semi-mythical figure Ragnar Lothbrok. Now it's trying to be history. But they make the exact same excuse, saying, oh, well, you know, it's not a documentary, so we can do whatever we want. I believe we've already made documentaries where they did whatever they want to. It's a strategy. Simple as. Pure and simple. It is a way to destroy something and then claim the goddamn bits. And in this case, here's the thing. When it comes to Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, the only way to fight it is to review it, to hammer it and slam it home into the heads of the normies that this is garbage. In the case of Vikings Valhalla, simply don't watch it. It's a throwaway spin-off to a show with already waning popularity. The best way to deal with this thing is to strangle it in its infancy, as we should have done with Sweden. But hey, we can at least fix one of our mistakes here, can't we? You know, I've got this worrying suspicion here that YouTube is going to look at this and go like, wait, hold on, is you saying this because she's black? Just to clarify, YouTube, no, I'm saying this because she's, what was it? Danish-Swedish. I'm allowed to hate the Swedes because I'm Norwegian. Have a good day, YouTube.